Spanning Gateway Part 2. This is on witchcraft, spells, magic, and just a natural, general way of looking at these things without these mystical fairy tale movie plots and all this shit about, simple things and how these things are being used every day through manipulation. That's what magic, witchcraft, spells, and magic, witchcraft, spells. I forgot. That's what the main foundation of those words is manipulation, and there's many forms of manipulation from what we do every day to create certain outcomes, the best outcomes for ourselves, manipulating our circumstances. So, but when it comes to witchcraft and its connotations and its ways of looking at it, we can see it as also a way of bending somebody else's will. Manipulating somebody else's existence, their way of being, by the use of elements, characteristics, or whatever is accessible to that being. Okay. So when it comes to people using ritualistic practices, I mean, we have to see the naturalness of the society that we live in, because things that we participate in, especially when it comes to religion, is people are participating in many different ritualistic practices, and then have the perspective that they can demonize anyone else who is using a religious, a ritualistic, not a religious, a ritualistic practice. That's kind of what is it called? A hypocrisy, because you're also practicing religion. Just going to church and waking up on time and doing certain things is also ritualistic. So it doesn't even make sense to demonize anybody for religious practices. The only thing that makes sense is for us to realize what we're doing, our ritualistic practices doing, and what the outcome is for ourselves, because our rituals, everything about our rituals, should be for ourselves and achieving a certain outcome that we're trying to get in our lives, without the manipulation of other people's will, or knowing how to manipulate energy or manipulate light is a characteristic of a magician. Okay, someone that knows how to manifest circumstances, situations, or things that favor them. Okay, or whoever that they're choosing to send favor. Okay. So this is just showing that these things aren't demonized things. It's only in the matter of the spirit, the intentions of the spirit, and how it's used. And if somebody is, you'd want to know if somebody was doing whole ass ritualistic practices on you, but not just seeing that as someone gathering elements and be making a witch's pot and pouring all the ingredients in there. We're seeing the actual spiritual representation of what people do, especially in the form of plotting. Plotting is witchcraft. Okay. It's setting circumstances and situations to be a certain way, to look, have an appearance a certain way. Okay. That's part of magic. We cast spells through the words that we use. We don't acknowledge the naturalness and the power behind these things, and why we've been fed the English language in the first place is because the significance of words and the power of them, and how they're able to illuminate or cover certain things. Okay, bringing things to the light and keeping certain things in the dark, just by the usage of words. And words have everything to do with the mind, how we think and communicate, and also how we see, how we analyze, how we practicalize the things that we're seeing. Um, so witchcraft has very much been ingrained in our society. That's how we've been able, how the United States has been able to hold on to its power, is through forms of manipulation, and they use many forms of manipulation. Okay, we should know this. All right, in order for them to maintain that power, because if we know that through the evidence of of life is that things always move. Change is inevitable. Okay, changes. There's nothing that people can do about when something just it's time. Okay, everything has its time, its transition. There's many different forms of transitions. There's many forms of death. You know, it's important, because you can't really understand life if you can't understand death and the many different ways of perceiving death. Especially when it comes to ritualistic practices, because a lot of ritualistic practices such as, you know, addictions or binding, some type of form of bondage, can lead to death. And there's ritualistic practices that we can use that lead us towards life, and having it abundantly. Just matters on the being and how they choose to operate their spirit of the light or the dark. And we can see what type of fruit that is, whether it's on the tree of life or death. But that's up to us to be able to perceive, use our spiritual eye to see, because we don't have a physical representation of the light, this tree of life and death. We see by the actions, we see by the image. Okay. And a lot of us, a lot of magic is played based on imagery. That's why people change their selves in many different ways to give off an appearance. People behave in certain ways to give off an appearance. Okay. Appearance of things. The society is very much based off of appearances, and that's how we've gotten away from seeing true forms, right? Because we're so used to seeing altered versions of what things naturally are. Very much been manipulated. So unless we know the natures of life, our existence, our everyday lives, ourselves, because ourselves has everything to do with our everyday life and what we manifest through our abilities, is based off of spiritual principles and knowing the laws of the universe, and the laws of the universe are the laws of ourselves, and getting to know ourselves is the best thing that we can do to be able to tap into magic, our magic. Okay, I'm not talking about practicing magic on people and abracadabra. I'm talking about our magic. This has to do with us, individually, taking responsibility and noticing where our magic is. And our magic is our gifts and our ability to make shit happen for ourselves. Um, Depending on whatever it is that you want to do. We all have our different life path, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? Okay, because that's part of magic, especially when you are able to use a weakness as a source of strength, or get some type of strength out of a weakness. That's able to use magic. That's internal magic. They don't teach about that type of magic, and it has everything to do with healing. But if you're not able to perceive these, if you don't know about these aspects of life, then you're not going to be able to perceive how you can use magic for yourself, and how magic can be used on you through different manipulation tactics, um, such as spelling. People speak because spelling has to do with speaking, so people can say certain things to get you to do certain things. Okay, people can tell you, especially love spells. That's one of the coldest ways, you know, to manipulate situations, is when guys, right? We see the movie and the examples where the guys have to say, especially Thin Line, hey, where he had to tell homegirl, you know, he had to break down and tell her, I love you. And you see the consequences of him using that love spell to get her to be enchanted. Okay, he enchanted her. He used enchantment, okay, in order for him to get the outcome that he wanted to get. That's a form of magic and manipulation, in its spiritual essence, because we're able to see that in how that enchantment had her more able to open up to him than she was previously, just because of he used charm. Okay, he used his charm to get through to her. So this part of magic. That's how uh, many different ways of identifying spells and how things can be used against us based on this world that we live in. Okay, and how we're able to identify things within ourselves. knowing where our powers lie and how we should be using these things for ourselves, not on other people. Okay, that's not what I'm saying at all. Um, but us recognizing the powers that we have within ourselves and also the responsibility that we hold in ourselves. And that's a good thing to recognize, is because he got his ass whooped. In that movie, she dusted his ass off, right? Because he held the consequences for what he did, the part that he participated in. Okay? He played, that's karma. Nobody's safe from karma, depending on how we participate. And we have to recognize when we're dealing with our spirits, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions all have consequences in this universe. So when it deals with energy and give and receive, a lot of times what you give off is what you're gonna get back. You just don't know how it's gonna unfold, right? There's many situations that we can dig into our life and see how shit has been played out, or if we, I ain't gonna get deep into that, but that's all working of magic and manipulation and being a magician. See, and it's another form. He was skilled. See him and Bobby Brown, because they was players. They got, had the clout. They had the club and everything, So they're considered magicians, right? They're able to manipulate the energies based off of appearances. Okay, chocolate city. All right, so this is a good example of how to see magic and witchcraft playing out through visual and oratory story form examples of how we use these things every day, how appearances are made. And this is how to be able to spiritually identify witchcraft and spells and rituals. Okay, because he ritualistically was giving out those VIP cards. Okay, that was a form of ritual. That's how he was able to draw women in, was using that ritualistic, what is that, a talisman. That VIP card. Okay, because it drawed attention, it drawed energy in. This should go deep when they deal with the spirit, but we're able to identify spells and witchcraft in its natural essence, and know that we all have ability to do so. We all can participate in whatever way we choose. And I'm just talking about things in their general essence. I'm not talking about witchcraft as if it should ever be anything played with. Just like I said in the beginning, thou shalt want to knoweth what the fuck thou doeth. When you want to play in the things of the dark. But we should know that already. Like we don't want to go down the dark alleyway, right? That's a physical representation of playing with things in the dark. At least if you want to go down the alleyway, you better know how to judo chop and have a katana sword and everything. You feel me? You have to be prepared for shit. So, I mean, you have to know what you're getting yourself into, and you want to be prepared for it. So, there's just different ways of explaining the same shit. But for us not to be stuck on perspectives that witchcraft has just something to do with people who are demon worshippers, no, because the main people who are calling people demon worshippers are the main ones using witchcraft, because that is witchcraft, calling someone a demon worshipper or a devil worshipper, especially when you don't know what you're talking about. Because that is a form of witchcraft. You just put negative energy on someone's image, someone's being, someone's essence, by calling them a devil worshiper. You just did that. And you're also responsible for the things that you say. That's a spell. You just casted a spell on somebody by calling someone a demon worshiper. So it's a contradiction of those who are in the church and want to sit up here and pinpoint or try to put a color on certain individuals who are not participating in their indoctrinated systems. So it's important to have a broader perspective on what witchcraft, spells, magic, and magicians are.